Netflix sure has been pumping out the documentary films the last couple years. Let's face it, they're cheap, easy to make, and gets lots of eyeballs sometimes. Now, in my opinion, most of their documentaries are just trash, but being only an hour long, I decided to check out the latest in their Trainwreck series, Poopcruise. Now, Poopcruise tells the story of a 2013 carnival cruise that lost power, stranding 4,000 passengers in the middle of the ocean. Now, like many documentaries, it over-dramatized the events and blew way out of proportion this story. In addition to this, and probably worse, was the cast of witnesses used in this documentary. Now, other than the cruise director and a cook, we get little perspective as to what the crew was doing, the decision making behind the scenes. The captain was not interviewed, nor were any engineers. We also got little perspective from Carnival, except other than one sleazeball PR person who probably still works there and was directed to get all the questions from when Netflix contacted Carnival. Still, coming back to the event at hand, the trauma of this event seems to primarily be from, well, the poop. Witnesses in the documentary recall how they were told to pee in showers and also were given a red bag to poop in. Now, in the documentary, many of the former passengers seemed traumatized by the thought of pooping in a bag. I mean, really? Is it that bad or traumatic? If the worst thing that happens to you in your life is you have to poop in a bag, you've got it pretty good. Now, in addition to this, it does kind of say something about society as a whole and how spoiled we've come. Now, I do agree that, in saying all this, I do agree that when the sewage started spilling out, that was just plain gross, unacceptable, and could have really caused some serious health problems. But just pooping in a bag shouldn't cause post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, many praise the crew for their work, and to some extent, I agree. I did think, though, the event showed, or the movie showed some poor decision-making by the crew. For one, the men should have just been peeing off the side of the boat, and all the bags should have just been gathered up and thrown overboard. That's just common sense right there. It would have been super easy to rig up some toilets on the side of the boat and just let the men pee off the side on a lower level, so essentially it didn't splash back and hit someone. Now, enough about poop and pee for a moment. How did Netflix do with the documentary? In general, I thought this was kind of below average. Simply stated, there just wasn't enough meat on the bones. A cruise broke down, passengers had some very inconvenient conditions and had to suck it up for a few days. I suspect Netflix interviewed some other people, but they didn't over-dramatize the event and just decided to throw out their interviews altogether. Now, based on things that kind of mistakenly came out in the documentary, it seems like people were still having a relatively good time on this cruise. Hell, like they mentioned, they opened up the bar and were giving out free booze. That seemed like, a traumatizing event if people are drinking and partying on this boat. Now, let's also just think about this logically for a second. Coming back to the poop and pee, how much poop and pee could really engulf this, cruise ship that's the length of 2 football fields or something? I'm sure it was some places, but the way the documentary tried to make it sound is that it was coming down all the walls all over the ship, and I'm guessing it wasn't around the overwhelming majority of the ship, and it was fine and it was clean. Some of the other characters interviewed were poor choices, as mentioned. The washed up CNN anchor who gave the media perspective. What news perspective did she bring, really? She alleged that CNN gambled and it paid off covering this. Maybe it's just me, but I don't remember this as being a big story in 2013. I remember the Boston Marathon bombing, but I don't recall this at all. I have to say the interview with the PR person from Carnival was pretty funny, though. That guy was such a sleazeball, putting out essentially a fake statement and indirectly talking about how they were going to cover it up from the media. Also, the mom who stated she might never see her daughter alive again. It was so blown out of proportion and exaggerated. The ship wasn't sinking in the middle of the ocean. It just lost power. There was a chance for Poopcruise to dive into some serious topics, but it didn't. For example, it could have dove into the corruptness of the cruise industry. It did somewhat as a lawyer discuss the tickets, used, language that said that they didn't have to provide safe passage, a seaworthy vessel, or basic necessities. This would have been a good place for a documentary like this to start, talk about the cruise industry and the corruptness as a starting point, and bring up some other examples and then go into what happened on this ship. But all in all, I doubt that this cruise was the nightmare. It sucked, I'm sure, especially for children and anyone with health problems, but it wasn't the nightmare that they said it was. And it kind of just proves that they're willing to make a documentary out of anything these days.